decided to repair an HVAC system and it came out just a little bit more expensive than I had originally intended. But let me explain. Welcome back. My name is AlexBeltran. I talk real estate. Now, I sometimes have to take a step back and realize that not everyone is as involved in real estate as I am. Now, I know that there are people that are way more involved in real estate than I am. However, the vast majority of people aren't as involved. In fact, the real estate industry kind of focuses in on this. Depending on who you ask, either the National Association of Realtors or the banks, they expect people to think about housing and real estate once every 5 to 7 years. And in between that time, people tend to check out and not really stay on top of the latest real estate news. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's first go back in time.
At Century 21, we're making things happen.
The home they've always dreamed of, the happiest investment they've ever made. At last, the Bryants have all...
In the US, homeownership has been one of the major pillars of being secure, stable, and successful. We've all heard the marketing behind it: white picket fence, 2 to 3 kids, maybe even a dog. In other words, it's the American dream. However, in recent years, it's evolved to wanting a home just so that you can tell people like me, landlords, to fuck off or eat rocks. I'm just kidding. No one's ever told me to fuck off, but I have been told to eat rocks. However, in recent years, it seems like it's been harder to obtain a home for a multitude of reasons, be it economic, lack of know-how, or culturally. On the economic front, it's no secret that the past few decades, home prices have outpaced the median household income. National Association of Real Estate estimates that the majority of the people in states like California and New York, 50 to 53% of their household income goes into either their rent or their mortgage, when financial experts recommend that between 23 to 28% of the household gross income goes into your rent or mortgage. Couple that with the fact that home prices, as of the time of this recording, are way overpriced, not just my opinion, but the opinions of pretty much all the major banks. And you know that when banks cry, it's serious. And then you have the people that don't realize that there are different mortgage products and down payment assistance products that can help facilitate home ownership. Even with the help, the math might still not make sense to buy the actual home. And lastly, culturally, people are no longer sticking around their entire careers in the same company. People are switching jobs roughly every 2 to 4 years. And with the rise of work from home, a lot of people have picked up that semi-nomadic lifestyle. Even though I can't scientifically prove it, it is my personal belief that everyone, and I mean everyone, wants a place to call their own. And home ownership is secretly everybody's goal. However, once you do the math, sometimes home ownership doesn't make sense. Combine all those ingredients together, sprinkle on top a little bit of house shorting, and it's no wonder why home ownership has been slowly declining throughout the years. Now, my personal path with home ownership is very different from the average person. I grew up in the real estate business. I look at real estate very different than the average person. So in order to make this more relatable, how about I talk about buyers that I normally encounter? The broad strokes of the conversation generally go like this. We've been renting for a while. I think it's time to lay down some roots. I've been looking at Zillow listings or Redfin listings for the past year or so, and it's finally time for me to take initiative. Normally, I say, great, let's find you a home. And this is where I get to know a lot about a person. The more investor-minded person is going to rely on the numbers a little bit more than their emotions, but the casual, kind of average buyer, they rely more on their emotions. They go off of the vibe of the home. Not judging, just an observation. However, the person that goes with the little more emotional feel with the vibes and the feeling of the home is sometimes the hardest to, say from themselves. Even if I tell them, hey, I think this property is a little bit too much work than what you originally intended. Normally their answer is something along the lines of, I know, but I really like it and it feels right, so I just want it. Cut to 6 months later, their entire house is a construction zone. Let me tell you a little secret. Come here, come a little closer. 95% of homeowners don't maintain their homes and or cut corners on repairs, and repairs compound. For the new homeowner, what was supposed to be a simple leaky faucet repair in the guest bathroom somehow turns into a full kitchen remodel, and if you're not laughing, it's because it hasn't happened to you yet. It's almost like clockwork, especially when it comes to first-time homeowners that aren't jaded by home ownership yet. Homeowners that have owned their houses for quite a long time do the bare minimum repairs, basically just enough to prevent the house from collapsing, consequently starting the vicious circle of not doing the work correctly. Which makes the new owners question themselves and ask, did I just make a mistake? Would it have been easier for me to keep renting where the landlord takes care of all the repairs and I just keep living in the house like normal? Bringing us to the Aristotle-esque philosophical quandary, should I rent or buy real estate? Where the correct answer is, it depends on your personal circumstances. Generally speaking, rentals are short-term, ownership is long-term, and even within that, there's a lot of gray area. What ownership does provide that rental will never do is equity. Own your home long enough and you basically become your own bank. Essentially, once you buy a house, it generally appreciates in value while you pay off the loan. I want to pause right here real quick. Investors, I know that we have a different outlook on equity and real estate as a whole, but today I'm talking to the average buyer and homeowner. I'll make another video for us real estate investors on a different date. Just be patient. Now, I say generally because there are a multitude of reasons why a property won't appreciate in value, be it bad markets, bad term loans, irresponsible cash out refinancing, or running into unexpected problems, say some structural issue or a plethora of other expensive repairs. So let's go back to the question, should you buy or rent? And the answer is actually pretty simple. There are actually buy versus rent calculators. Yes, they do exist, and they break down all the numbers. What they don't do is break down the intangibles. Unexpected repairs, increase in taxes, the value of a specific school zone, investment potential where maybe you buy something knowing that in a couple years a company will overpay you for that particular plot of land because they need it in order to proceed with their development. Or maybe renting a beachfront property in California for $300 a month because of rent control laws. Who knows what your personal situation is? I should have rented a beachfront property while they were still cheap. Anyway, let's reel it back. If you are on that, buy versus rent calculator, you will see that the intangibles is what makes it hard to get a concrete answer. It's hard to calculate the unexpected. Believe me, real estate investors would pay top dollar to get it 100% correct 100% of the time. It is literally their job to do so, and even they get it wrong sometimes. So the average buyer, renter, or homeowner is even more likely to get it completely wrong, especially when the first-time home buyers or homeowners are going to get, at least on average, a starter home, meaning that it's most likely going to be an older home. Just take Omaha as an example. Sub $100,000 homes were built in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. Just as a point of reference, 1903 was when the Wright brothers flew the first airplane for a whole 12 seconds using wood, bicycle parts, and their dirty bed sheets for wings.
Mama, I'm begging you, don't.
That's a sheep back there.
Anything old needs a lot of maintenance and upkeep in order to keep it working properly, kind of like my back. But we've already talked about how people cut corners and how repairs compound. Now imagine 100 years of compounded repairs. How about that math? When purchasing a home, everyone's going to warn you about the interest rates, taxes, insurance, furniture, and even some small renovations. It could be a rude awakening for homeowners when the unexpected repairs for neglected, compounded, deferred repairs spring their ugly head, because doing things the right way is usually super expensive. Now, if all this talk is making you think twice about purchasing a home, then good. It should. But it shouldn't scare you from home ownership altogether. All you really need to do is more due diligence, due diligence, due diligence. Because statistically speaking, the purchase of a home is going to be the biggest expense of your life. You better make damn sure you run all the numbers and double check them with everybody. Basically, what I'm trying to do is save you from yourself. Don't buy because of the vibe of the home. Try to stay as objective as possible. And never, ever, 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 ever buy a flipped home, ever. Just don't do it. Don't do it. I just saved you a ton of headache right there. I don't need to explain why, just don't do it. And look, I get it, it's hard to stay objective, especially because when purchasing a house, you're emotional, you're physical, and your financial resources get severely drained, which makes it easy to overspend and overlook very important things. Try to stay as objective as possible. like the HVAC system that I have to repair on one of the properties because one, the HVAC system in and of itself has outlived its life. It simply no longer works. And two, the ducts need to be completely redone because they are damaged. And it's gonna cost me a little under $9,000. Now, luckily, this is for one of the properties that I manage, not one of my personal investments. However, we knew that this was gonna pop up. We purchased the property knowing that the HVAC system was pretty much on its last leg. Part of the negotiation was the HVAC system, so it all works out. The last thing you want to do is have an unexpected repair like this huge HVAC system when you're already financially strained. Like I said, luckily for us, we knew about it. Look, I do know a lot of people that went 10 to 15 times over their original budget. That whole faucet turning into a full kitchen remodel thing, it's not that far off from the truth. There are people that stumble into those situations. Sometimes I feel people making an excuse to make these bigger sort of remodels, but that's, a completely different thing. But with due diligence, you will be able to mitigate a lot of these problems. Now, you can't solve them all, obviously, but you can account for them for the most part. Anyway, I want to hear from you. First time homeowner, repair problems, go ahead and comment them in the comment section down below. First time home buyers, what are you guys seeing out there? I mean, there are several markets that I'm kind of keeping on top of, but there's a lot of cities and a lot of states, and I can't stay on top of all of it. What is your experience with the real estate market right now? Go ahead and comment in the comment section down below. Love to hear your thoughts. Last week, I went to Fargo. Check out the video right here or right there, wherever it pops up. Other than that, I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.